Open the podcast bay doors, Hal.
Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 99 of Welcome to Geektown. I'm your host, Kurt Onstead. I've been a proud geek all my life, being into role-playing games, board games, sci-fi, fantasy, and especially superheroes and comics. And I want to help others join me in those pursuits. But I've found that sometimes people can get overwhelmed or feel left out because they don't already have what some consider the requisite knowledge to be considered a fan. And that's where Welcome to Geektown comes in. Here you can ask your questions without feeling like a gatekeeper is calling you out for not yet being fully versed in every aspect of your new interest. We're almost to episode 100. When I reach that milestone next episode, I plan on looking back to some of my past questions and see if there are any major updates that should be covered, as well as answering a few questions that I don't think are complex enough to merit a full episode. I already have a couple of specific ones in mind, but if there's any episode you want an update on, or if you have any questions at all, short or long, let me know. As always, my email is welcometogeektown, all spelled out, @gmail.com. I look forward to hearing from you to help celebrate this achievement. This week, we have a question from frequent inquirer and former guest from the WandaVision Deep Dive episodes, Joel L. This time, his question, specifically addressed to me, consists of one word. Huh? From the fact that this monosyllabic inquiry came as a comment attached to a posting of the trailer for Eternals, and also from further elaboration on his part later, I know Joel is asking who these characters are and what their introduction means for the MCU at large. With the movie's release now being less than 2 months away, I thought now would be a good time to help get you up to speed on who these cosmic-level beings are. The Eternals first appeared in Eternals #1, released in 1976, written and drawn by the man known for co-creating many of the early Marvel heroes, Jack Kirby. Kirby outright stated in interviews that the Eternals were at least partially inspired by the Erich von Däniken book, Chariots of the Gods, which presented the theory that many of the ancient world's more spectacular accomplishments were actually the works of visiting aliens. Similar theories are now the backbone of the Ancient Aliens TV show, but most anthropologists recognize these as easily debunked claptrap that demeaned the ancient cultures who were able to produce wonders without the input of outsiders, alien or domestic. It's easy to draw parallels between the Eternals and the New Gods, aka the Fourth World, the project Kirby had been most invested in at DC, but had been unable to complete to his liking due to editorial interference, then cancellation. During the Eternals' first year-and-a-half run by the legendary artist, the characters introduced did not interact with the rest of the Marvel Universe. Kirby did not intend for this title to actually take place on the same Earth as the Avengers, X-Men, and the rest, wanting to tell his own unique and complete story. When the editors insisted Kirby include Marvel characters, he did so in such a way that this could still be taking place on a different Earth. The most outrageous example of this being when the Eternals fought the Hulk, who ended up actually being a robot built to look like the famous character. In another parallel to the New Gods, editorial fiat once again changed Kirby's plans on the book, and poor sales brought about its end before the creator could finish the story as he had planned. After the book was cancelled and Kirby was no longer working at Marvel, other writers picked up on the loose plot threads left behind and, as you'll hear, tied the Eternals into the mythos of the Marvel Universe, including the reason that so many superpowered characters appear on Earth. So, who are the Eternals? Well, before we get to that, we have to go even farther back and talk about an ultra-powerful alien race known as the Celestials. MCU watchers have briefly seen Celestials as the armored beings shown in the Collector's presentation about the Infinity Stones in Guardians of the Galaxy. In addition, the outpost called Nowhere in that film is the head of a dead Celestial, and in Guardians Volume 2, Ego, played by Kurt Russell, claims to be the last Celestial. These giant mysterious beings experiment on the life on various planets early in their cycles, then later return to pass judgment on the results of those experiments and potentially destroy the entire world if they do not meet their unknown qualifications. Earth was one of those early experiments, and in addition to adding the potential for superpowers among the regular humans, or proto-humans as this was before Homo sapiens had evolved, two offshoots of humanity were created: the beautiful, long-lived Eternals and the monstrous-looking Deviants, who are basically presented as the good guys and bad guys, respectively, in Kirby's work. The Eternals, as noted in the trailer for the upcoming movie, have stayed out of human affairs for the most part, intervening only when their ancient enemies, the Deviants, were involved. In the million years or so since their creation in-universe, the Eternals have had various internal conflicts that ended with multiple tribes of Eternals spread across the world, and, thanks to their advanced technology, even to other worlds, including Titan, birthplace of Thanos, who in the Marvel Comics has been stated to be an Eternal who still carries some of the deviant genes, explaining his more monstrous appearance. Now that we know a little bit about the past of the Eternals, what exactly is it that they do? Well, as I said, they mainly stick to themselves, although they work to protect humanity at large from the Deviants, mostly in secret. When they have made themselves known, they've been mistaken by early humans for literal gods. Athena and Makari, for example, are supposedly the inspiration for Greek gods Athena and Mercury, respectively. And with their powers, that confusion is understandable. While each Eternal has focused their abilities to specialize in one superpower above the others, they all have multiple powers in common to one degree or another, including super strength and speed, flight, invulnerability, and immortality. Even if their body is completely disintegrated somehow, they're quickly resurrected by the Machine, a semi-sentient celestial device that may actually be Earth itself. As for some of their specialties, we have Icarus, who focused on his flight and energy projection powers, Circe with matter manipulation, Makari, whose super speed surpasses nearly everyone in the Marvel Universe, Sprite, an illusionist trapped in a childlike body, Gilgamesh, aka the Forgotten One, with heightened senses and hand-to-hand combat expertise, and Druig with mental powers. A side note here, I've been playing a bit of the pronoun game with these characters, as between the comics and the movie, a number of the Eternals have had their genders flipped. With their ability to have their entire bodies recreated from scratch, it'll be interesting to see if the comics end up changing the original versions of the character to match up to their gender presentation from the movies sometime down the line. In addition to their individual powers, the Eternals can merge their wills together to create what is known as the Unimind, an even more powerful being made of pure energy, sometimes presented as a giant brain, sometimes as a glowing humanoid. In Kirby's original portrayal, the current leader of the Eternals, titled the Prime, had to initiate a ritual to establish a Unimind. But in later works, this could be done by any grouping of Eternals as small as 3. Now, as we can see in the trailer, much of the history of the Eternals from the comics seems to be fairly intact in the movie, as we see the Eternals interacting with humans throughout history. So, one big question that is asked in the trailer, and has been asked by fans since the movie's first announcement, is, where were these guys when Thanos invaded? Well, I have a couple of potential answers for that. Now, the obvious reason is the real-world explanation, which is Marvel didn't want to introduce these characters yet. But there are some in-universe explanations that I would like to explore. The first one is one that I've already brought up, and is even mentioned in the more recent trailer. The Eternals as a group only fight against the Deviants, and do not interfere in human history unless those monstrous foes are also involved. While Thanos is part deviant in the comics, that's probably not the case in the MCU, as the writers involved in the movies tend to streamline things, and that would be an unnecessary retcon of a character that we're not likely to see anymore. More practically, unless one or more of the Eternals was on the Avengers speed dial, it's hard to see how any of them would have become aware of and then arrived to the various battles before they were over. But the other potential explanations are the ones I find most interesting. While Kirby created the Eternals in the 70s, they saw a resurgence in the mid-2000s when writer Neil Gaiman wrote a 7-issue miniseries drawn by John Romita Jr. This story began with nearly all of the Eternals having forgotten who they were and leading regular human lives. We eventually learned that Sprite caused this, manipulating reality due to their anger at being stuck in a childlike body. We've been told in interviews that Neil Gaiman's take on the characters will be a major influence for the film, so it's possible that this story element has also been included, and that during Infinity War and Endgame, the Eternals weren't even aware that they had the ability to help. The other aspect of these characters that was added by Gaiman and other later creators is that the Eternals were not only created by the Celestials, but basically hardwired with their purpose and are unable to act too far outside of these parameters. In other words, their choice to only fight when the Deviants were involved was not a choice at all, but simply how they were programmed to act. In the comics, the Eternals also have been shown to be unable to take action against the Celestials, and in fact must defend them, even when it appeared that they were going to wipe away all life on the planet. Breaking that programming could be part of the journey of the Eternals in the upcoming film, but that is pure speculation on my part. We'll simply have to wait until November 4th, when the Eternals arrives in theaters, to see how it all plays out. As always, a big thank you to Joel L. for asking the question that inspired this episode. I'm always looking for more questions, especially from listeners who haven't asked one yet. If there's any topic you want me to cover, please send your suggestions to me, or any other feedback via email to welcome2geektown, all spelled out, @gmail.com. Or you can go to the website, welcome to, the number 2 in this case, geektown.com, and click the Submit a Question link if you prefer to ask more anonymously. Other contact options include facebook.com/welcome-to-geektown or Twitter @geektownpodcast. Also, if you'd like to support the show directly, come join the Patreon at patreon.com/welcome-to-geektown for just $1 per month to get access to full scripts of the shows, outtakes, and a monthly shoutout. You can also help the show grow by subscribing and giving a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts to join the Geektown City Council, which helps other people find the show, so we can all tell them, welcome to Geektown, population, us. Welcome to Geektown is written, narrated, edited, and produced by me, Kurt Onstead. Theme music is by Aaron Levitz, logo art by Archie Santana. All other sound clips are the copyrighted material of their respective owners, and no infringement is intended, falling under fair use.